established protocols. It gives me exceptional honor and a very rare privilege to be here today in order to pronounce words that will cement stronger the congenial relationship among the diverse people of Nigeria and the continent of Africa, under the platform of our foremost Pan-Africanist and one of our founding fathers in Nigeria, and indeed the leader for the liberation of Africa, His Excellency, the late Chief Dr. Benjamin Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Owelo of Onitsha, former Governor General of Nigeria and former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The theme for this year's lecture, the power of Pan-African unity, strengthening Nigeria's role in Africa's integration and development, is succinctly the most important thing Nigeria and indeed the continent of Africa needs today, going by the turbulent, ethnocentric and religiously sentimentalized, delicate era of our contemporary political views. Certainly, this is repugnant to the ideals and expectations of the founding fathers of Nigeria. I believe if they are alive today, 65 years after the independence of Nigeria, politics of sentimentalism will not be the order of the day. Zik is our own. He was born in the state of Dr. Muazu Babangida Aliyu on the 16th day of November in the year 1904 by his father, the late Chief Obededum Chukwuemeka. Unfortunately, not enough has been written about the Azikiwe Senior, the father of late Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. I think that is a travesty for starters. How many of us here knows that he was a regimental officer of the West African Frontier Force or principal private secretary to the late Governor General of Nigeria? Obed Edom Chukwuemeka Azikiwe lived from 1879 to 1958, passing at the age of 79, 2 years before Nigeria gained its independence. Unfortunately, he did not live to see his son take over as Governor General of Nigeria. How many of us here know that Obed Edom Chukwuemeka Azikiwe was the one that drafted the famous treaty Lord Lugard signed with our traditional rulers, particularly the treaty that is called the Treaty for the Amalgamation of Northern and Southern Protectorates in Nigeria. He was the one that drafted the treaties, be it Oban of Calabar, the Sultan of Sokoto, the Oba of Benin, or the Alafin of Oyo. All the treaties offering British protections to Nigeria's traditional institutions were drafted by Obed Edom Chukwuemeka Azikiwe. Against these traditional rulers, but then we are happy to sign those accords because they were drafted in the context of the protection of our cultural heritage. As far as we know, the one person who flagrantly refused to sign any treaty, unless this protection was expunged, was the late Jaja of Okobo. I can imagine the heated argument he had with Obed Edom Chukwuemeka Azikiwe for him to have refused to sign the treaties. Based as the Governor General's private secretary in Zungeru, in the present-day Niger State at Lord Lugard's office, Obed Edom Chukwuemeka Azikiwe traveled to all parts of Nigeria until in 1914. It is no surprise that he sent his son Nnamdi to go and live with his grandmother in Onitsha, despite him being born in Zungeru. He simply did not have time for his family matters because he was the engine material of the late Governor General of Nigeria. I can imagine how proud he would have been to see his son wear the crown as Governor General or the uniform of Governor General, given what washing the history it would have been during his time as a statesman of that generation. In the light of this, the birth of baby Benjamin, whom we are celebrating today, the entire Kwantagore kingdom, where Zungeru belonged, witnessed something at the eve of his birth. On the night, they witnessed exodus of unprecedented number of comets dominating the sky, which prompted the palace of the Emir of Kwantagora to arrange his local star readers, astrologists in English, under him the Emir Ibrahim Nagwamasi. After careful investigation, they pronounced that a great figure was to be born, and they began to search for where this birth will take place. Thus, when the baby was born, to the person, the Emir called the man Arzika. Arzika is a Hausa word that means a wealthy man, because based on the outcome of the astrologists' investigations, somebody very big, very wealthy, a very strong leader was to be born. And the Emir nicknamed him Ibrahim. So Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe's traditional name is Zungeru, and indeed the Kwantagora Emirate was Ibrahim. That was the name given to him by Emir Ibrahim Nagwamasi after his own name. The young Zik was baptized Benjamin, a name which he personally dropped later because of his opposition against the British imperialism. He began early education at CMS Central School, Onitsha, and Hope Wortwell Training School, Onitsha, and Hope Training School, Calabar, and then later Methodist Boys High School, Lagos, where he first met his Yoruba contemporaries, and then learned speaking Yoruba fluently thereafter. He studied in different parts of the world like the United Kingdom, the United States, Ghana, and some American Negro institutions like the University of Pennsylvania and the Columbia University. Let us be reminded that in 1946, Dr. Zik, using his political party, the NCNC, together with his national secretary, the late Madam Saad Zungu, began campaigning to raise money for a delegation to go to United Kingdom to protest against Richard's constitution and to demand for self-rule for the Federation of Nigeria. This singular seed planted by Zik is what germinated to the independence we were witnessing 65 years after. History has taught me to remember that in 1956, when Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth visited Nigeria, preparatory for Nigeria's independence, the late Sardauna said the North was not prepared for independence in 1957. It was Zik that said, the North is the most popular constituent, and if democracy is the game of number, we have to wait for the North to catch up before we can gain the independence. And that was what led to shifting of the independence from 1957 to 1960. The power we inherited, Zik, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Sego Labumba, Mandela, and all many others, these titans of the 20th century, get Africa a gift of possibility. They fought so that we must have a house of our own, and Africa to be unchained, and we should be proud, independent people, equal with other people of the world. But let us be honest with ourselves. What kind of house have we built after Zik? A house divided by ethnic strife cannot endure. A house corroded by corruption cannot inspire. A house without justice cannot lead. If Nigeria is to serve as a cornerstone of Africa, then our house must first be in order. A divided Nigeria cannot unify. Cannot unify Africa. A corrupt Nigeria cannot inspire Africa. A lawless Nigeria cannot lead Africa. And that is the reason why Africa is in comatose. Unity as a moral compass. From the word of law that I inhabit, one truth is clear. Unity cannot be built on injustice. Pan-Africanism, which Zig stood for, is not only an economic project, but it's a political project that we must continue to illuminate. It is a moral and legal compass. It is a solemn promise that the rule of law will triumph over the rule of might. A treaty signed in Abuja should be a treaty that should be honored in Addis Ababa. Justice for the market woman in Enugu should be the vital justice for the entrepreneur in Johannesburg. Africa must wake up and be united. But Africa cannot be united if Nigeria is not ready to change. We must face up the provocative truth. The greatest obstacle to African integration is not in Brussels or Washington. It is not all colonial masters that will bring about new economic powers for Africa. Our politicians must eschew this bitter character of going to Chatham House and under imperialist institutions to be presenting their credentials if they are looking for elections. They should present their credentials to the electorates, to the citizens, to the common people of Africa, so that we determine their competency or otherwise. African leaders in the mirror of good governance. You may see some of the credentials I have enumerated as unfit for many of our leaders today. Yet, it's because in Africa, we have succeeded in producing as our leaders characters of action in political drama with deficiency in character of positive results and productive action. They are only figures of time, not makers of history. Leadership in all strata of governance is experiencing absence of resolve and resolute leadership of morality, leadership of political entrenchment of superiority of common man over their leaders. Economically and socially, we are yet to be liberated up to now in Africa. Our continent is experiencing turmoil in moral and developmental decay, characterized by crimes, religious conflicts, economic corruption, civil unrest, cyber crimes in many forms, poverty, diseases, and terrorism. In short, Africa has now become the dumping ground of all negativities of the contemporary world. Our leaders have been turned into agents of drug trafficking, agents of arms deals, international conspiracy, and many other things. And that is the reason why if our leaders go for any international meeting, you will discover that on many occasions, some of them will have to consult their imperial masters before they can decide on any matter. A number of African leaders have operated under a shadow reputation of integrity that was only a facade. While they appeared competent and well-adjusted on the outside, they are lacking the real substance within them, which is morality. They are missing the element of moral force. Then their ethical poverty eventually become evident in the course of governing the innocent citizenry. The public will not know who these leaders really are until they become enmeshed in scandals due to their reckless conduct. The sign of hope. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, there is hope. The dream is not dead, it is alive. It is in the Nigerian finest stars of for them to refine the course of Africa. It is the Ghanaian filmmakers. Is it the Senegalese musicians? Is it the African lawyers, judges, and entrepreneurs? Everybody must be on deck to try to liberate Africa. This probe must be carried very seriously because I do not believe Africa is still independent. Inasmuch as up to now, small tiny countries like France, small tiny countries like Japan, many tiny countries that are not up to Kano State, we say so country and African relations. All the leaders of Africa will assemble under the canopy to face a small country, and they will be dictated on what the outcome will be before even going there, without them first sitting in-house to determine the priorities and the deliverables that they will get as a result of attending such a conference. Let it be clear, Nigeria cannot simply talk about Africa's unity. We must embody it. I speak with my heart beating. If 65 years after the independence, if from 1975 up to today, After fighting the useless civil war, I call it useless because 3,374 people were innocently killed. And at the end of it, we said, no winner, no vanquished. Up to now, some people are still carrying the gospel of separatism. Then Africa is yet to be ready for integration and to face the contemporary challenges of the world. We must strengthen our judiciary for the judiciary to be incorruptible. We must strengthen our civil societies for them to be ethically efficient, not to be cannon fodders of foreign powers. We must grow our economy and reward merit, not mediocrity. We must be prepared to connect security to the liberation of our people. Nigeria, as the largest black nation and the most populous in Africa, must be ready to lead by example. If Nigeria gets it right, Africa will naturally get it right. Nigeria should be prepared to integrate African mineral resources and give them very serious protection, because the mineral resources are breeding in terrorism for African continents. Nigeria should be the leader in this crusade. Nigeria should be the leader to create uniformity of currencies, economic integration, for us to have one currency in African continent. Nigeria should be the leader to evolve a new political system that will give Africans sense of freedom and belonging, so that an African will feel he is a citizen in any part of Africa he happens to be. Nigeria has all the potential ingredients for graduation into a superpower, and the potentiality is centered on its charismatic popularity, both within the Africa and within the Community of Nations. It is the most populous nation in terms of population and resource endowments. We are, however, lacking strong leaders. We believe in Nigeria, who believe in Nigerian project, who places Nigeria above themselves and their parochial considerations. We need to evolve leaders with courage to surmount our perplexing issues and to resolve the seemingly overwhelming problems, as well as the ability to discover, implement, and work with correct, definable solutions. We need leaders whose trademark is an embodiment of competence and effectiveness. We should collectively build Nigeria's society where order, nationalism, and discipline and hard work, as well as patriotism, are in the minds of both the leaders and the followers. The leaders are not enough, followers must equally queue in. The distinction between growth and development is that while growth translates into physical institutionalization of pillars or structures, development will spring off all facets of growth. Thus, while development relates to education, good health, adequacy, and correctness of employment, and corresponding wages payment, democracy, etc., growth relates to erection of tall buildings, good and beautifully imported cars and aircrafts. On why Nigeria is only growing without development, refer to the Vanguard newspaper of the 2nd of May 2017 at page 18, where our own elder statesman, Dr. Alison Akere Aida, has said a lot about that at the University of Bureau's 27th convocation ceremony. I stand here before this audience as a sad Nigerian. I feel sad because of the sense of doom around and the shadow of doubt hovering over us. There is too much misery and frustration in Nigeria. The pauperization of the rural poor and the pulverization of the urban dwellers, as demonstrated in apparent lack of collective will to survive today. The inability of leadership at all strata to ensure end of the intractable insecurity, end of hunger, end of illiteracy, end of unemployment. The most shameful, most embarrassing, most disgusting, most illusionary is the way some psycho, narrow-minded few are challenging our unity 55 years after the Civil War. In flagrant violation of the provision of sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 14, 15, 17, 18, 21, 22, and 23 of the Nigerian Federal Republic Constitution. What does the future hold for Nigeria? Let us therefore learn from the lessons of history and experience and rely less on experts and economists from the IMF or World Bank. We must work out indigenous solutions. We must evolve solutions from within us. These are the solutions that will work for us, not borrowed solutions. Moral solutions are entirely them with the countries they were drafted based on their own history, based on their own demography, based on their own economic strength, based on their own political direction. A fish gets rotten from the head. If we want to get things correctly, we must begin to change the style and quality of our leadership. The needed leadership. If the national leadership at all strata can act on nationalism, morality, sincerity, and fear of God, and transcend down to all the states and local governments in Nigeria, we can permeate all the arms of the governance and there will be uniformity of purpose. Then the leadership question will be rested to answer. The strategic long-term goals, objectives, or as must be actualized in reasonable expectations, hope, and potentialities of the Nigerian people. Within the situation of Nigeria, we need serious improvement in the quality of leadership and governance. The challenge before political leadership in Nigeria are enormous, serious, urgent, and crucial. These are the gospels being championed by distinguished Senator Ndime here. A political leader emerging will need vision, organizing ability, wisdom, administrative skills, and many more. Some of these attributes can be acquired by a leader through other persons. What cannot be loaned, hired, or procured are those correct and sound principles of personal character, which generates good thoughts and right actions. Caring, integrity, courage, faithfulness, fidelity, justice, industry are some of the correct and sound principles we are lacking in the governance of Nigeria. We need leaders, honest and sincere leaders, not dribblers, looters, or swindlers, or sweet talkers. We need leaders with correct and sound principles of personal character, who can lead people with unfamiliar, very disciplined but desirable and harsh policies and programs for the redemption of all and for the future prosperity of all and sundry. We have abundance of politicians in the governance. What we need more are statesmen. We have deficiency in number of statesmen in Nigeria. Statesmen are leaders who believe leadership is a trust, that one day they will die and they will account for that stewardship. These are statesmen. But politicians are more or less interested in accumulation of power, retention of themselves in power, re-election, further re-election, and further election of their own nominees to succeed them. These are the type of politicians we have. We need statesmen that when you are listening to national anthem, they will be flowing their eyes with tears. Statesmen that believes that they are feeling the sufferings of Nigeria. In 1960, Johnson helped to establish University of Nigeria in Nsukka. When he approached Zik told him to turn it down for one singular reason. The singular reason is that it was to be named after Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. Zik said, name it after Federal Republic of Nigeria, not under my name. And that is why the university is named New University of Nigeria at Nsukka. We need leaders like that, not leaders that would want to be honored while they are alive, while they are on seat. The call to unity is built on charity. It is a leverage in a competitive world. It is a key to the continental market. We have 1.4 billion people. We need economy of Africa to be integrated so that we'll have one central bank, so that we'll have one currency, so that we'll have one economic system, so that we'll have one finance institution. If we do it that way, then we are beginning. The next is to have a political system that is indigenous to our own history, indigenous to our own culture, indigenous to our own costumes, indigenous to our own traditions, indigenous to our own developmental tempo in the correct and current contemporary happenings of the world. We need leaders that will live in Africa, believing that they are part of the citizens in any country. Let us trade with Accra and Nairobi, rather than thinking of trading with Washington or trading with Moscow. Let us demand that our leaders should put African partnership above foreign dependency. If we imbibe African partnership and avoid foreign dependency, the better for Nigeria. We need citizens in Nigeria that are prepared to share the experiences and the needs and interests of other people. We need leaders that are talking about values. In 1956, when Queen Elizabeth came, there was a drama there. Sardauna was the one that said, let Zik, you are the most famous and you are at the forefront of the liberation struggle. You should be the first president of liberated Nigeria. Zik looked at them and said, no. Political independence without economic independence is meaningless. Let Chief Obafemi Awolowo be the leader because he has more economic endowments better than all of us. Let him be the DC. Obafemi Awolowo said, no, let Sardauna be, because the North has more population, the North has more land mass, and he is the leader of the NPC, which was the most populous political party there. The Sardauna looked at himself and said, I will not do justice to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, coming by the aristocratic extraction I have come from. Wherever I go, if I pose with my gown and my turban, people will understand the whole of Nigeria to think all Nigerians are Muslims. He said, I will not be feared to non-adherents of my religion. There is somebody there who is intellectually sounder than myself. There is somebody there who is known all over the world as first foreign affairs minister. There is somebody there who has entrenched all the infrastructural developments you can see in Nigeria today. He is from the poor background, from a minority tribe. Let him be given the leadership so that he will be able to do justice to the minority tribes. That was the Sardauna. He said, I cannot do that one. And if as the leader of the NPC I take leadership and I fail, who will penalize him? They all kept quiet. He said, I will need something from somebody that will come while I remain the leader. That was how he brought about let Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa to become the Prime Minister of Nigeria. But today, what are we witnessing? Today, what are we witnessing? You cannot be a leader if you are not a humongous petrodollar merchant. You cannot be a leader if you don't have billions of naira to purchase nomination form. And that time, they called the late Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and sat him down. He was shedding tears when he accepted to become the Prime Minister, because he said he knew the enormity of the burden of moral responsibilities on him. And he was doubting whether or not he would be able to do justice to all and sundry. He said, tears running down his cheeks, that in the event I fail, the wrath of God will be on my head. And this is the mission statement that contemporary leaders are not thinking about. Therefore, we need reincarnation of those type of leaders. Leaders that grew up, leaders that were thinking beyond their noses, leaders that were thinking Nigeria and Africa first. A leader should be a civil servant, should be a servant that should be the last to enjoy, but should be the gallant one to suffer. A leader is moving further. He is the one moving ahead so that whatever danger can come, let it happen to him first. That was the statement of the late Sardauna on the eve of his assassination when they confronted him. He said, I am the Sardauna. You don't have to deal with anybody. If you have anything, confront me. I am the one to bear the challenge. It is when the leader is defeated that the gallant troops can be said to be conquered. And that was how he paid the last price and gave out his ghost before the so-called revolutionaries. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I decided, because of the limitation of time, to summarize what I want to say. My paper will be circulated to all of you here. You will see the details of what I intended to say, but skip because of time. I thank you for your rapt attention and kind listening as I